Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Greater Houston Partnership's 2019 annual meeting. Please welcome the President and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, Bob Harvey.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Greater Houston Partnership's 2019 annual meeting, and thank you all for being here. Looking back at 2018, the partnership and Houston broadly have much to celebrate, and we'll highlight a few of these wins in just a few minutes. But as we get started, I wanted to acknowledge that the partnership is also celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. Now, thank you. Now, when I'm out talking to the community about the partnership, I often refer back to the founding of the original Houston Chamber of Commerce in 1840, just 4 years after the Allen brothers founded the city. But it is fitting that we celebrate the historic event that occurred 30 years ago when the original Chamber of Commerce merged with the Houston Economic Development Corporation and the Houston World Trade Association to become the Greater Houston Partnership.
In 1989, Houston's business leaders brought together three key groups to form a new partnership. A partnership led by the city's best and brightest. A partnership that would advance the future of Houston, positioning it as one of the world's great global cities. The Greater Houston Partnership. As the partnership has grown, so has Houston. 30 years later, Houston continues to be one of America's fastest growing metros. We're creating jobs, and we're growing our economy. Leveraging the strengths of the business community, the Greater Houston Partnership has spent the first 30 years making Houston greater. On land and sea, in outer space, at work, and at play. We've created opportunities, upskilled our workforce, helped get our city on firm financial footing, and positioned Houston on the global stage. We've helped champion the efforts to build a more resilient Houston, and we've put a plan in motion to bolster Houston as an innovation hub, one that attracts startups and investors to build Houston's next chapter. Through the hard work and support of Houston's business leaders, the Greater Houston Partnership has helped advance Houston as a great global city. We're looking forward to continuing this work and to many more years of making Houston greater.
Very cool. So thank you to everyone here who played a role in the tremendous work we've done over the last 30 years. We're honored to have one of our three founding board chairs here today, Charles Duncan and his wife, Ann. 30 years ago, Charles was the chairman of the Greater Houston Chamber of Commerce when he worked with Ben Love and Bob Onstead to form the new merged organization. So Charles, could you please stand? I believe, Charles, you said you were 92 years old. Did I add a year? Hopefully I didn't. It's just a wonderful honor to have you here with us today. We also have several other former board chairs who are joining us today. Would all of our former board chairs please stand so we can thank you for your leadership? All of our former board chairs. Great. Thank you. I'm also grateful to be joined by two of my three predecessors who served as president and CEO of the partnership. Jim Kohler, who served from 1990 until 2005, and Jeff Mosley, who served from 2005 until 2012. Jeff, Jim, would you both please stand? And I'll just mention Lee Hogan, who was the first president and CEO. Unfortunately, was drawn away at the last minute and couldn't be here, but we send Lee our regards. It's been a great 30 years, but we know we have much work left to do. I can't wait to share more details about our plan for the next decade later in our program, but to keep things moving forward, I'd like to make a few more introductions, and I'd first like to acknowledge Mayor Sylvester Turner, who's here today. Mayor, would you please stand? Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. Now, would all of our elected officials please stand so we can recognize you as well, all of our elected officials. Thank you so much for your service to our community. Next, would all members of the Consular Corps please stand? Members of the Consular Corps. Great. Now, I'd also like to take a moment to thank all those who held key leadership positions at the partnership in 2018. With the men and women who serve on the executive committee or the board of directors of the partnership in 2018, would you please stand so we can recognize you as well, all the board members and executive committee. And finally, we want to honor our executive partners and sponsors who made today's event possible.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for joining us today. Each and every one of you is essential to our mission of making Houston greater, and we appreciate your being with us. We also appreciate the many individuals and businesses who make the important work of the Greater Houston Partnership possible. Our executive partners support the partnership and our community at the highest level of membership. BP America, CenterPoint Energy, Chevron, ExxonMobil Corporation, Inspirity, JP Morgan Chase, Reliant and NRG Company, Shell Oil Company, TransCanada, Wells Fargo. Our signature sponsors enhance our events and programs. Accenture, AT&T, BP America, CenterPoint Energy, Chevron, Citgo Petroleum Corporation, Comcast, ExxonMobil Corporation, Haynes and Boone LLP, HCA Houston Healthcare, HEB, Mitsubishi Corporation Americas, Shell Oil Company, Silver Eagle Distributors, Texas Medical Center, United Airlines, Wells Fargo. And we are grateful to the many sponsors who have made this 2019 annual meeting possible. At the platinum level, HEB, the Friedkin Group. Today's gold level sponsor, HCA Houston Healthcare. Our silver level sponsors, Bracewell LLP, Calpine Corporation, Comcast, Enbridge, NG North America Inc., Heinz, Kroger, Silver Eagle Distributors, Cisco Corporation. Our bronze sponsors, Accenture, AIG, Alta Resources, Apache Corporation, Crown Castle International Corporation, Dannenbaum Engineering Corporation, Deloitte, Ernst & Young LLP, Haynes and Boone LLP, Hunt & Andrews Kurth LLP, JLL, Lone Star College, Sam Houston State University, Texas A&M University, Texas Medical Center, Texas Southern University, Trustmark National Bank. Thank you as well to the following companies for underwriting today's event: Centerpiece Underwriter, Mitsubishi Corporation Americas, 30th Anniversary Commemorative Gift Bag Underwriter, Westlake Chemical, Program Underwriter, Waste Management, VIP Registration Underwriter, BB&T. Also thanks to our staging partner, JSAV, and to our production partner, Vision. The Greater Houston Partnership would like to express appreciation to the members of Houston's Consular Corp for their leadership in building and maintaining international relationships. We would also like to acknowledge our elected officials, the men and women who represent Houston at the local, state, and federal level, for their dedication and commitment to our region. Please join the Greater Houston Partnership in a round of applause for all of the people and companies who make our work possible. Together, we truly are making Houston greater.
Great, thanks for your support. There's one other group I want to recognize today, and that is the partnership staff. They help move the organization forward, facilitating our committees and driving the day-to-day execution of our strategies. I hope you agree with me that our staff has done a terrific job. I do want to briefly highlight one of our staff members, Josh Farrago, from our research team, who was recently awarded the 2018 President's Impact Award. He produced an excellent segmentation analysis based on our membership survey and has led the data. He has been the lead data analyst as we work to quantify Houston's digital tech ecosystem. So Josh, please stand so we can thank you. There you go, Josh. Thank you very much at the back of the room. Josh, thank you. And on behalf of the entire staff, thank you for all you do. Thank you. Now, it's now my honor to welcome to the stage everyone's favorite grocer, Scott McClelland, President of H-E-B Food and Drug and the 2019 Chair of the Greater Houston Partnership.
All right, thank you, Bob, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to be here today, in part because my first order of business is to honor our 2018 Chair, Mark Watts. Mark, 2018 was a tremendous year for the partnership under your leadership. The partnership was able to lead out on several fronts, including flood resiliency, education, and bolstering Houston as an innovative city. You were instrumental in strengthening the partner's relationship with elected officials at the local, state, and federal levels. Your pragmatic style and get-it-done approach helped move Houston forward in a number of areas. And you've taken so much of your time out of a very busy schedule, and you've given it back to the partnership and to Houston. So Mark, we'd like to acknowledge your dedication to the Greater Houston region by presenting you with the partnership's highest honor, the Bob Onstead Leadership Award. Now, Bob Onstead was also one of the 3 founding chairs of the partnership. He was greatly admired for his many contributions to the community. So Mark, thank you for all that you've done. And ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mark Watts.
Well, thank you, Scott. No matter what they tell you about this job, it's harder than they say it is. It's been an honor to serve as chair in 2018, and I'm proud, relieved, and comforted to pass the gavel to you. I do want to say a few words about Scott, though in this room he needs no introduction. He's president of H-E-B, as we all know, where he does a spectacular job. His H-E-B stores are so good, they really enhance the quality of all our lives. And we all love the commercials. We see Scott's athletic prowess, such as it is, as he stars with J.J. Watt, Jose Altuve, Deshaun Watson, and pretty much every other athlete in Houston. Scott, glad to see your hair has grown back after your little encounter with Deshaun and his football. But most important, in my view, is Scott's passion for public education, a topic he will discuss later today. He served as chair of our education committee and was founder and co-chair of our Early Matters Pre-K initiative. He's the founding chair of Good Reason Houston, which is working to ensure all of Houston's kids have access to a quality education. There is no more important mission for this partnership and assignment than this one. So Scott, thank you for all you do and for serving as our chair this year. So when I was at this podium a year ago, I quoted Jack Palance from City Slickers. I know you're all hoping I would forget that. Where he says in that movie that the secret to life is sticking to just one thing. And for the partnership, that one thing means that our members need to be much more engaged in the political and civic life of our community. In other words, business leaders and business values need to have a major role in addressing the challenges and opportunities of this community. Well, we have done a fantastic job at that. And sometimes I think it's a case of being careful what you ask for, because at the partnership, we are right in the middle of all the critical issues facing this region, issues that we have got to get right if this is to be the city we want it to be for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. And just to briefly discuss a few, flood resiliencies. Mayor Turner, I'm so happy you're here today for many reasons, but we work so closely with the mayor and his staff at the city, along with the county leadership, to co-lead missions to D.C. to help secure federal resiliency funding. We were also proud to help lead the campaign to pass the county's $2.5 billion flood bond. But the hard work yet to come is to make sure that money is effectively spent so that Houstonians never have to suffer like that again. And then education reform. The partnership is at the center of this effort. Scott will talk much more about it. But whether it is HISD or the need to increase the number of students graduating with quality degrees from our secondary institutions, the status quo is just not acceptable. And then there's workforce development. I'm very proud of Upskill Houston, our wildly successful effort to build a more skilled workforce. But this has to continue to grow. Our economy depends on it, and it will offer a better life to so many of our young people. And then innovation. So much has been done here already. A lot was announced yesterday. We formed Houston Exponential to promote our innovation economy. HX Venture Fund closed its initial funding to attract more VC investment to Houston, something we think we desperately need. Rice has announced its innovation district in Midtown. The University of Houston is expanding its Data Science Institute through a $10 million gift from HP Enterprise. And especially exciting for me, the Texas Medical Center announced its TMC3 initiative so that the benefits of our world-class scientific and clinical research stay here in Houston instead of going to Boston or Silicon Valley. And then finally, the other area where we placed energy is the Port of Houston. We can't let the port be a victim of its own success. It needs a strategic plan to ensure it can accommodate the needs of all stakeholders, and it needs funding so that it can be widened, and that needs to happen, of course, sooner and not later. Now, I'm delighted that Partnership Board member Rick Campo is the new chair of the Port Commission. He'll certainly help the port move forward, continuing the hard work of Janice Longoria. You know, it's such an exciting time to live in Houston. We would not want to live anywhere else. There's so much opportunity. But the outcome of these issues that I've just discussed and others, they are not decided by any means. And how they are decided will shape this city for generations to come, for better or worse. The great thing is that people are now coming to the partnership, it seems like almost every day, for help in addressing these challenges and opportunities. In some cases, because we can help bridge divides. In others, because we are the only organization with the scale and influence to make a difference. We are now engaged at the very core of the civic life of this community. So as members of the partnership, I'll simply say to each one of you, don't count on someone else to do it. We need all your help. And if that happens, I believe our success is certain. Again, it's been a great honor to serve as your chair, the honor of a lifetime. Thank you very much.
Great job, Mark. Boy, you were busy this year, for heaven's sakes. You know, when he came in today, I thought he was about 2 inches taller than he was when I saw him last week. I may be 2 inches shorter. Hey, before we break for lunch, we have a few quick items of official business to conduct. And the first is the election of new board members, of which nominees are listed on the screen. Now, nominees were selected from the membership of the Greater Houston Partnership, and our nominating committee was then responsible for narrowing the list. Each member company is entitled to 1 vote in the board election. A proxy form with the list of the 2019 nominees was sent to each partnership member company, and the proxies were submitted by those who could not join us this afternoon. Before we take the formal vote, I should ask if there are any nominations from the floor. Hearing none, would all the 2019 board nominees please rise? Well, don't applaud yet. We got to vote them in. All in favor of the nominees, please say aye. All of those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Please join me in welcoming these new directors to the Greater Houston Partnership. Have you ever watched the Oscar Awards when they come out and they read the rules of how that goes, the guy from the accounting? That's what that just felt like right there when I went through. Okay, our next order of business is to elect the partnership vice chair and secretary for this year. And according to our bylaws, the vice chair will take my place and become the chair in 2020. And I'm pleased to announce that Bobby Tudor of Tudor Pickering Holton Company has been nominated to serve in this role. Now, most of you probably know Bobby. He's well respected across the business community and within philanthropic circles, as he and his wife Phoebe are really active in the community. He serves as the chairman of Tudor Pickering Holton Company, which you may recall combined with Perella Weinberg in late 2016. He's currently the chair of Rice University Board of Trustees, and that's a role that he'll continue to hold until May 2020. Bobby's a great Houstonian. He's well respected across the business community, and I really look forward to working with him in his role as vice chair this year and then as chair in 2020. All those in favor of Bobby's nomination, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Bobby, the ayes have it. Congratulations to you. Let's hear it for Bobby. Okay, one last order of business. Today we have the opportunity to honor a former board chair with a special honor. Per our bylaws, the board of directors may appoint an individual to the position of Director Emeritus. The honor is bestowed on business leaders who provided exceptional service to the organization. And I'm pleased to report that the nominating committee, executive committee, and the board of directors have taken action to recommend that Pat Oxford receive this special distinction. Pat is Bracewell's chairman and has been an active partnership board member since 2004 and served as our board chair in 2010. Over the years, Pat has helped build relationships with the many elected officials and appointed officials also. He regularly offers wise counsel on a number of important issues, and he's a fervent supporter of our work. Pat served on the University of Texas System's Board of Regents, and he's a member of MD Anderson's Board of Visitors Executive Committee, as well as the Texas Medical Center Board. Pat's a great champion for Houston, and so, on behalf of the partnership and in gratitude for your outstanding service to the community, Pat, I'm honored to bestow upon you the title of Director Emeritus. Pat, please stand up so we can acknowledge you. Well done. Congratulations. Well, now we're going to take a break for about 25 minutes. We'll come back with the rest of our program. Enjoy your lunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the president and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, Bob Harvey.
As Mark commented earlier, we have much to be proud of in 2018. Our work advocating for flood infrastructure funding and for improved public education, our efforts to build a stronger innovation ecosystem and a skilled workforce. The list goes on. 2018 was also a great year for our membership, setting new records for participation and engagement. But why do we do these things? At the partnership, we believe our role is to advance Houston's position as a great global city, to place it securely among the very best cities in the world. So today, I want to talk with you about our plan to keep Houston moving forward.
In our increasingly connected world, a handful of great cities stand out from the rest. Beacons of commerce and prestige. Cities with strong, diverse economies, extraordinary talent, and excellent quality of life. All the hallmarks of great global cities, competing to be the best. Since our founding 180 years ago, Houston has been a city of opportunity. A city where no idea was too big, no problem too great. Over the years, we've grown our economy to rank 15th globally, and we produce the second highest GDP per worker of any metro in the world. We're a globally connected city with the most diverse population in the United States. We're a knowledge capital and a hub for innovation. In fact, Houston is, by every measure, a great global city. But where do we go from here? How do we compete? Though we can't predict the future, we can influence it. By working together and seizing opportunities in the ever-changing world, with leadership, talent, innovation, and teamwork. Join the Greater Houston Partnership as we work together to advance Houston as a great global city. Houston Next.
Great, thank you. Now, by every measure, we are already a great city, and many of you wouldn't be here otherwise. But we also know that the world is changing very rapidly, and I dare say the pecking order of global cities for the remainder of the 21st century is being worked out right now. There are no givens. We are not assured a place near the top. Think of Amazon choosing New York and DC for HQ2, Apple expanding rapidly in Austin, digital talent flocking to Denver, Chicago, Minneapolis, and other cities. Today, we sit at a critical crossroads for our region. Consider for a moment that almost 120 years ago, we struck oil at Spindletop, 85 miles east of Houston. The well free-flowed at 100,000 barrels per day for 9 days. It changed the world as oil went from being a lubricant and a lighting fuel to being a transportation fuel. And Houston quickly became the engineering, manufacturing, and headquarters hub of a new industry. But when I think about the next 100 years, I'm convinced that Houston must greatly expand its horizons. Our role in energy must evolve, and it can't just be about energy. With this recognition of the need to evolve and diversify in order to compete and win, we at the partnership have been thinking hard about the path forward for Houston. What is the vision for Houston that is even more dynamic, inclusive, and resilient than the metro we have today? The board and staff of the partnership, with support from McKinsey & Company, spent the better part of 2017 and 18 thinking about Houston's future and the role of the partnership should play in shaping it. We examined Houston's competitive position versus other major cities along 25 dimensions. We did take the time to discuss and reinforce those elements of Houston that have contributed to our success since Houston's founding. We have always been a welcoming city where newcomers are invited to join in and contribute to our success. We've always been a place of limited government and low taxes. And we've been a place where it was recognized that we had to build our city ourselves together. We are a can-do city. But even with these traits in mind, we know we have to look ahead and think about what it takes to compete in the coming decades. After a lot of discussion, we distilled the essence of success to 3 broad dimensions. A great global city must have a strong, diverse 21st century economy. It must offer and be known for a great quality of life. And it must provide opportunity for all, both its current citizens and those who are attracted to it. Over the next decade, the partnership, with your help, is going to focus its efforts on advancing Houston in each of these areas through a strategic plan we're calling Houston Next. Let's start with our plan to build a strong, diverse 21st century economy. The Greater Houston Partnership has long promoted Houston's economic growth through economic development efforts aimed at attracting leading global companies to Houston, creating jobs and growing the region's GDP. But I mentioned companies like Amazon and Apple, and more recently Honeywell, placing their headquarters and major operations in other markets. We must ask why. We know we need to market Houston more effectively. That means having the industry expertise to call on companies in the industry categories we've targeted and not waiting for the site consultants to call on us. It means getting our branding and messaging right and dealing with some of our deficiencies. That's the essence of our new headquarters attraction strategy. I won't speak to everything else on this list, but there are two areas I want to focus on: Energy 2.0 and the digital transition. So first, let's talk about energy. This gets at what I was saying earlier about keeping pace with the changing nature of the energy industry. In oil and gas, it means keeping up with the movement towards more AI-based decision-making, where algorithms help decide where to drill, how to complete, when to do maintenance, even what company to acquire. In renewables, it means leveraging our strengths as project developers, financiers, and energy marketers to lead the development of world-scale wind, solar, and energy storage projects, and to be full participants in the evolution to electric and autonomous vehicles. And with respect to climate change, you may have read the great interview with John Gibson at Tudor Pickering Holt & Company in last week's Houston Chronicle. John talked about Houston's unique ability to leverage our expertise to determine where to put the carbon associated with 250 years of fossil fuel-driven industrialization. Virtually every forecast shows global energy consumption continuing to increase for decades to come as populations grow, as incomes rise. But these same forecasts suggest that renewables are gaining share and capturing much of that growth as a result of rapidly improving economics, as well as a global push to reduce carbon. Pundits are suggesting peak demand for fossil fuels could occur in 10 to 20 years, which is like saying tomorrow in a capital-intensive industry. Houston simply must move rapidly and visibly to be seen as part of an exciting future for energy. We must ensure that we maintain our role as the energy capital of the world by putting an increased focus on new energy and carbon capture and storage. Fortunately, many of the players in new energy are already here in Houston and have been meeting at the partnership to ensure that their voices are heard. Now, let me turn briefly to Houston's digital transition. I recently read in a report that the number of baccalaureate degrees granted in computer science and computer engineering in the US and Canada has almost tripled in the last 10 years. The number of PhDs granted has doubled over the past 15 years. Are we getting our fair share? Are we producing our fair share? I don't think so. Using a broader definition of digital technology, CBRE ranks Houston 31st in digital technology strength in the US. The New York Metro and the DC Metro each have 3 times the digital tech workforce that we have here in Houston. So is it any wonder Amazon chose those 2 areas for their HQ2? I can't think of a skill set that is more critical to Houston's future than digital technology broadly defined. Now, steps are being taken by the University of Houston, Rice, and other local institutions to fill the void. And as Mark mentioned, industry is pitching in to help. But are we doing enough? I don't think so. With the help of the partnership's new Chief Economic Development Officer, Susan Davenport, the partnership will be developing a plan to accelerate the digital transition of our core industries. We will be looking hard at the digital talent question and the issue of higher education infrastructure in Houston generally. Now, the second of the 3 key areas of focus is ensuring a great quality of life. And over the last 20 years, Houston has made tremendous improvement in this area. Think Discovery Green, just outside of this hotel, or the Bayou Greenways Initiative, the revitalization of Midtown, Edo, and the Heights, and our truly world-class cultural, sports, and culinary attractions. GQ recently named Houston the capital of Southern cool. I don't know what it means. But we do know we're heading in the right direction thanks to many of you and the organizations you represent. But when we talk about the quality of life going forward, we must meld the efforts to address flooding and congestion with the often separate but interrelated efforts to build parks and hike and bike trails and walkable, complete neighborhoods and the like. We at the partnership will continue to play a leadership role in securing flood mitigation resources and advocating for transportation infrastructure and finding ways to make local government more efficient and responsive. And all of this work will be done in conjunction with those individuals and organizations who are equally intent on improving the quality of life in Houston. The third of the three key areas of focus has to do with ensuring that Houston truly offers opportunity for all. As the partnership works to support a strong, diverse economy, it is paramount that the growth we achieve is powered by Houstonians, our neighbors, who are seeking opportunity to improve their lives and that of their families. While a number of factors contribute to a system of opportunity, the partnership believes strong education systems, career pathways, and lifelong skills development, coupled with strong community support, are essential to ensuring everyone in Houston has the opportunity to succeed. We must also be open and inclusive to the immigrants in our midst, to the LGBT community, and to other groups who have felt marginalized at best. And we must look, thank you. And we must look beyond our own families and our own neighborhoods to see how others are doing and join with them in building a great city. Now, Scott McClellan will have more to say on this topic in just a minute. But before I turn it over to Scott, I do want to make a quick sales pitch. We have action plans for each focus area, but of course we need you. We need your time to put these plans into action, and we need your financial support. Your annual membership dues and event sponsorships cover about 2/3 of our budget. The other third comes from periodic multi-year fundraising campaigns. So alongside the Houston Next plan, we're launching the Houston Next Capital Campaign, a $50 million campaign to fund our strategic plan over the next 7 years. We've begun with a quiet phase, and I'm pleased to report that several companies have already committed in a big way. Our first two platinum investors are CenterPoint Energy and Phillips 66. Chevron has invested at the gold level. Our silver investors are BP, HEB, Reliant, and NRG Company, Silver Eagle Distributors, and the Texas Medical Center. And at the supporter level, Gilbane. Through their generous investment, we're already above the $13 million mark in our $50 million effort. And as you're beginning to do, let's thank our initial lead investors to the Houston Next campaign. So all that said, we'll be out over the next 2 months meeting with many of you to see how you can contribute to this effort, and we hope you'll join us. Now, if you take one message away from my remarks today, I would hope it would be this. We can't take Houston's future success for granted just because we've had a great record of success in the past. We're going to have to make wise choices and commit serious attention and resources. It's up to each of us to ensure Houston continues to advance as a great global city with a strong, diverse economy, an outstanding quality of life, and with opportunity for all. And to expand on this opportunity for creating opportunity, I'd like to bring back our 2019 chair of the Greater Houston Partnership, Scott McClellan. Thank you, Scott.
Great job. Good one. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you. Talk about my favorite subject next to groceries, and that'd be education. You know, I moved to Houston in 2003. And after being here for a while, I realized that the world fundamentally splits into two different kinds of people. There are those that have never really spent any time in Houston, and they look upon our city as being humid and mosquito infested. And then there's us, people who live here and have come to appreciate our city for what it is. The fact that our greatest natural resource is the people who live here, and the spirit that we have, our optimism, the belief that we can do just about anything that we set our minds to. Over the 16 years that I've lived here, I've seen our population of our greater Houston area grow by over 2 million and become even more diverse than it was. During my time here, we've celebrated our shares of victory, and we've also overcome challenges. We welcomed in over 200,000 new Houstonians who moved here from New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And we showed resiliency, and we showed how Houstonians work together under the leadership of our mayor when we overcame the challenges from our own hurricane. We revere local icons who represent the soul of what Houston is really like. People like Beyonce, Mattress Mac, J.J. Watt, Jose Altuve, former President George H.W. Bush and his wife Barbara. Houstonians who really don't have a lot in common other than they love this city and stand for the kinds of things that we stand for. But what we know is in today's new economy, we know that good paying jobs that support the business expansion that we need is going to require students to have more than a high school education, because the blue collar jobs of old that will support a middle income paycheck, they don't exist anymore. New jobs that pay middle income wages or higher are going to require a technical certificate or a 2-year or 4-year degree. So you can think of it like this. Good education can create a virtuous cycle. Better educated students will give us a higher caliber workforce. Now, I lived in San Antonio before I moved to Houston, and I always found it interesting why there were so many call centers that were located in San Antonio. Call centers that paid hourly wages to their employees. And the reason? Because that's what the educational system was able to provide for. Now, a higher caliber workforce will create a stronger business environment. Look, there's a reason that the Silicon Valley is located where it is, and why Boston is a magnet for high tech and life sciences. It's a result of the output of the education system. From cradle to career, education supplies businesses with the workers that they need. And if you can get a strong business environment, that creates job growth, which then can turn and drive new businesses to come to our city, and that will drive our GDP. Now, a good education system often is buoyed by having great teachers. And after our parents, for most of us, the most influential person or persons in our life was a teacher that we had when we were growing up. I know that was the case for me. Now, it may come as a surprise to you, but I wasn't always the best student in the class. In fact, I didn't even try to be the best student in the class for a long time. In fact, the 4th grade, I had Mrs. Dozier, and I brought with me today a copy of my report card from the 4th grade, and I thought it might share it to you. Now, one of the things that's interesting is Mrs. Dozier, she was fastidious, and she typed my report card. Here's what it said. Scott can do a great deal more than he is currently showing. He was very near a D in his written work, and desperately needs to work on citizenship and sportsmanship during our team games. His quality of work would definitely improve if he would check over his assignments before hurriedly turning them in. HEB table, I know I do better now. He'll need to improve in order to keep his office of Lieutenant Governor, watch out Dan Patrick, of room 3. I'll be looking for a great deal of improvement this next quarter. And then just to pile on, the principal, Mr. Watson, wrote in cursive at the bottom, I'm very disappointed in your citizenship grade. Let's hope it comes up next quarter. Mrs. Dozier had an intervention with my parents before the word intervention had been invented. Not only did my mother go to the parent-teacher conference, but so did my dad. He had to leave work, and the only thing I remember is the beating I got when they got home. I did not like Mrs. Dozier, but I came to respect her because she was committed to my success, and she realized that some students need a little bit of a push and someone to set a higher target. And our state has realized this, and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has put out a goal of having 60% of Texas students achieve some sort of post-secondary credential or degree by 2030. So how is it that we're doing? Well, we're making progress, but we still have a long way to go. Now, if you look at the graph on the left, it says that 42% of all Texans have some sort of post-secondary credential. But half of those, 21%, were educated from outside of the state. Or, said another way, we do a better job of importing talent than we do of educating our own. And that's problematic because it puts a huge onus on transferring skilled workers in from out of state. but more importantly, it points to a general failure to adequately educate our own. And as a result, many Texas children are going to end up educationally shortchanged, and they won't enjoy the opportunity to succeed and prosper like those of us in this room today. And that's not good enough, and we shouldn't accept it. Now, this chart right here says that we've got to start early. We can't wait until high school to start to address this, because today, only 40% of kids in Harris County read at grade level in the 3rd grade. And until the 3rd grade, you're learning to read, and after that, you're reading to learn. And I think it's safe to say that if you aren't reading at grade level in the 3rd grade, you probably aren't going to be in that group that's going on to college. In fact, you're 4 times more likely to drop out of high school. Now, when I went to school, there wasn't a distinction between being college ready and graduating from high school. They were kind of one and the same. But today there is a distinction. And that definition of college readiness means scoring high enough on a college entrance exam that a student can gain entry to, or that you can make your way through college without any sort of remedial coursework. And today in Houston, only 1 in 3 students qualifies as being college ready. Yet, our expectation is that 60% of all kids are going to get some sort of post-secondary educational degree. Now, we all aspire to have our kids go to the best possible schools so that they have a chance to get ahead. But in Harris County, 44% of all schools are rated either C, D, or F by the Texas Education Agency. And for students of color, the quality of schools is even worse. And unfortunately, when it comes to education, inequality exists. Now, this is a little bit of a complicated slide, so let me walk you through it. On the vertical axis, it shows percent college ready. So the higher that bubble is, the more college ready you are. And on the horizontal axis, it shows percent economically disadvantaged. So on the right-hand side, the farther to the right you are. So you aspire to be a blue bubble in the upper left-hand corner and not a red bubble. And what I've done here is to plot all of the school districts in the greater Harris County area. So this begs the question are kids who are economically disadvantaged just simply poor students? Look, here's what I tell you. It's hard to be poor. And those who are economically disadvantaged wake up every day with challenges that are different than what you face or what I face. One of the things that we do at H-E-B before we build a store in a new area is we spend time going into households around the store and visit with people who live there. And some of the most instructive days I spend are when we build a store in a lower income area and we spend days with those customers. Because if we make decisions about what to put into a store based off of me, a 60-year-old white guy who by the grace of God can eat whatever I want tonight for dinner, we make a lot of mistakes. And what I find as I look into pantries that are 1/2, 1/4 filled, refrigerators or freezers that don't have a lot in them, you learn that folks are dealing with the basics of life's necessities, like how to pay the rent, how to get food in your refrigerator, living in multi-generational families with brothers and sisters and their kids. And what it does is it makes it difficult to get basics done like doing homework, getting kids to school on time, things that we take for granted that they're having to deal with. Look, you don't have to be certified to be a parent. And for many kids in these homes, their lives are challenging and unstable. Yet oftentimes we educate them and have the same expectations for them to progress, just like kids in the suburbs. Now, here's why this is meaningful. 60% of all students in the state of Texas come from disadvantaged homes. Or said another way, we can't expect for our entire workforce to come from 40% of the population that isn't disadvantaged. Because otherwise, we aren't going to like the way that our society looks, and we aren't going to like the way that we can have enough workers. You know, at H-E-B, I got bricks and mortar on the ground. I'm not going anywhere because my stores are here. But if I'm in technology, or if I'm in energy, or if I'm in finance, I have a choice of where I locate or where I expand. And we want to make Houston be the most attractive opportunity to bring in new business or have our existing business go on and expand. So if you go back to my earlier slide, where only 21% of the kids get a post-secondary credential and the resulting need it puts on us of having to import this talent in, you can see the dilemma that we're faced with of building a quality workforce. Now, partnership members, this is my money slide. If you only take away one thing from what I say, it's this. If you look at the 60 by 30 goal, 60% of all students having some sort of post-secondary credential by the year 2030, and then you say 1 in 6 Black and Latino adults hold a bachelor's degree in the greater Houston area, and if you look in our schools today, that 71% of our schools are made up of Black and Latino students, we've got to do a better job of educating everyone. Houston, this is our wake-up call. We don't want to put a ceiling for the potential of our workforce that's determined by the zip code that kids are born into. It's just that simple. If we want to be a great city, if we want to attract new business and expand existing business, then we've got to find a way to educate all kids, because it's the right thing to do, and we won't be able to grow our businesses if we don't. So, 5 years ago, we rewrote the HEB training manuals, and when we did, we rewrote them from an 8th grade literacy level to a 5th grade literacy level. And that was the day that I started to take an interest in public education, because I knew that we were headed in the wrong direction. So that's why I say we're at a crossroads today in determining the kind of city that we want to be. And we can sit here and we can hope that everything plays out and say, gee, my kid's doing okay. It's not about your kid, because every kid that lives in Texas is our responsibility and our accountability, and in our greater Houston area. Or we can join together collectively and work together to make a great city even greater. Now, is it possible for an urban area to do good things and have a turnaround? We don't have to look very far, just up the road to I-45 to Dallas Independent School District, where over the course of the last 4 years, they've implemented some unique strategies, and they've taken their number of improvement required schools down significantly. And what they've done hasn't necessarily been rocket science. They've identified their best teachers, and then they incentivize them to go and teach in the most challenging schools. They've extended the school day, they've upgraded facilities, and they provided additional social and emotional support. Now, we're at the start right now of a new legislative session in Austin, and it's time for us to rethink public school finance reform, because the way in which we finance our schools hasn't been addressed since 1993. Now, here's a case in point. Bob made the point about high tech and the number of computer science majors that there are across the United States and Canada. I heard Mike Morath speak last summer, and he told me that there are about 3,000 high schools in the state of Texas. How many accredited computer science teachers do you think there are? Less than 200. That speaks to the need of changing and investing, that education is not an expense, it is an investment in the future of our state. So for starters, we don't really know what it costs to effectively educate a child, but what we do know is that today we're spending less than the average state in the United States of America, and we're spending about at the same rate that we have, but we have things like security and needing to spend more on technology, and the costs have gone up. Now, with Recapture in 1993, and Recapture is the program where we take money from property-rich districts and send it to property-poor districts. Well, this year, for HISD, which is a district that has about 75% of its students that are deemed economically disadvantaged, they're going to send a check of $274 million back to the state. Now, you can see up here we spend about $9,100 a year in educating a student. That $274 million, it equates to $1,300 per student. $1,300 per student, $9,100 in total. That is a meaningful amount of money that is going back to the state. Now, the good news, the new Speaker of the House, Dennis Bonnen, who's from just down the road in Angleton, he has said that his number one priority for this session is public school education and finance reform. And that's great news, because it is our number one, because it is at the base building block of what we need for our city. So what is it that we want to do? One, We want to equitably raise school funding so that all kids, regardless of their zip code, have a chance to receive first-class education. 2, strong focus on literacy to ensure that every student can read by the 3rd grade. We've got to start early. 3, look to achieve outcomes for the money that is invested so that we can ensure that more money goes to the kids who need it the most. And I would say this is probably the most controversial of any of the 3 planks, because we have to make sure that the outcome measures are correct so that we don't have unintended consequences of money not getting to the people that going to the kids who need it the most. And then 4th, we want to increase teacher compensation and pay the best teachers more to support students in the schools with the greatest challenges. Now, we fired our first salvo. Bob Harvey and I, we wrote an op-ed piece in the Chronicle that showed January 6th. And in it, thank you. And in it, we said to the legislators, it is our expectation that you will pass legislation this session. And then we reached out to chambers across the state and asked them to do the same thing on the same day. And 6 op-eds were published on that day so that when legislators showed up on the first day of the legislative session, that following Tuesday, they saw that the business community stood united across the state to say that this is a pressing need. We also have not-for-profits that are working hard to support the school districts. For instance, Good Reason is working to ensure that all kids who qualify for pre-K do in fact go. And they know the importance of having great teachers in the classroom and that can make a big difference for kids. And so they're working with ISDs and universities to raise the stature of the profession and the quality of a teacher in every classroom. Their goal is to have a comprehensive strategy to move schools from C, D, and F to A's and B's. Then there's Leadership ISD. This is an organization that's kind of similar to what Leadership Houston does, but it focuses solely on education that takes interested parties like you and me, who might have an interest in education, go through a 6-month training because we know that a community that understands public education is going to be more committed to it. And then there's Houston GPS, and their focus is making sure that we have good people in office and running for Board of Trustees positions because governance is absolutely critical. Now, a 4-year degree isn't the only route to a high-paying career. With the rich diversity of industries that we have in Houston, there are over 1 million good-paying jobs that you can get with a technical degree. And you can see all the different types of industries that we have, whether it's a welder or working in a hospital, a variety of those, that the only path to getting a good-paying job, you don't have to get a 4-year degree. And that's where Upskill Houston comes in. This is an initiative that was started by the partnership. We work with businesses and community colleges and school districts to make sure that schools are training to the needs of jobs and future jobs, so raise the awareness for students and their parents that all paths to success don't require a 4-year degree. And we're making good progress here also. So, way to get there, you graduate from high school, you could get a technical education and then go to a 4-year university. You could go to a 4-year university. Here's what we know. Growing Houston businesses have needs. And at the heart of the matter is having an education system that provides high school graduates that are ready and capable of taking the next step. So in closing, look, one of the reasons I really like being involved with the partnership is that we have the ability to shape the direction and the future of our city. And you can see from the strategic plan that Bob showed you earlier, we have 3 key points. That's a strong economy, great quality of life, and an opportunity for all. But the leverage point to make this happen is involvement. See, we're more powerful as a team than we are as a few individuals. And there are 1,200 of us here today. And if we find a way for all of us to work together and be involved with the partnership, we would be a real force. Now, many of you are already involved. Stay involved or get more involved. And if you aren't, find a way. Look, I wasn't that knowledgeable about education before I joined the partnership. Today, I think I have the opportunity to make a difference. And as a result, I'm a bigger person, but I've also made a difference in my community. And that's a good thing on 2 fronts. So think about getting involved. Next year, 2019, where we're in right now, this is going to be a great year. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with Bob, the different folks on the board of directors, and you. So join me. Let's make Houston a great place. Thank you so much.